Joining us now, NewsNation political contributor and conservative commentator, Dr. Wright, and author of Kamala, The Motherland and Me, and a professor at Pepperdine University, Nkwurtali Quartey. Welcome to both of you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, Hannah.
Thank you and good morning.
Good morning. Lauren, always a pleasure, my friend. I hope you're doing well. Both parties seem to be split when it comes to how far we should get involved between Iran and Israel. You heard the congressman from Rhode Island. Lauren, your thoughts on what Trump's messaging should be as we continue to play this out or see it play out?
Well, I think Mike Huckabee's comments were pretty telling earlier that you highlighted, Hannah. He's trying to draw attention to the fact that this isn't just a conflict that the U.S. has no interest in. Not only is Israel a powerful ally in the region and the only democracy that's surrounded by countries that essentially don't think it should exist, including Iran, but there's almost 1 million Americans in Israel. Iranian-backed groups like Hamas and Hezbollah have taken Americans hostage, killed them. Hezbollah attacked our troops just in 2023 in Syria, Jordan, Iraq. And so the Democratic talking points do seem to be that this is somehow escalatory, but there's only one group that's shown restraint here, and it's Israel. They had targeted attacks. The general earlier said meticulous. I think that's the right word. Iran is, without abandon, sending bombs into civilian areas. And so it's very hard to defend the fact that for Israel, they are defending themselves. And this has been an ongoing conflict for decades that, yes, has a rich history, but they have an existential threat as long as Iran is getting close to a nuclear weapon.
Nkwurtali, I know it's one of your first times on the show. Welcome. We know that Trump was given a heads up before Israel launched its attack on Iran. He said it himself. This just days before nuclear talks were set to begin. The timing is so interesting. What kind of position does this put Trump and his administration in when we talk about timing?
Well, I think it puts the Trump administration's credibility on the line with foreign allies around the world and with foes around the world. Look, when America calls people to the table, folks have got to be able to trust that America is negotiating in good faith. Israel's attacks, they came, of course, as the U.S. was negotiating a nuclear deal with Iran. It remains unclear about the U.S.'s involvement in the strikes. But this is what the big challenge is. What will the U.S.'s involvement be in the future? We know that there are American military bases in the region that may be vulnerable to strikes. We know that Iran has said that striking U.S. military bases, U.S. military assets is not off the table. And so we've got to be careful not to be reeled into yet another military conflict in another part of the world. Just in about 150 days since President Trump has taken office, we have not seen things really ratchet down when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. We haven't seen things ratchet down in terms of the Israel-Gaza conflict. And now Israel-Iran, that's a lot of conflict for the deal maker in chief, a president who came in and said that he wanted to be a force for peace in the world. We still are looking to see that kind of leadership.
Lauren, the U.S. has signaled that those nuclear talks could still take place. How would you advise the Trump administration to bring Iran back to the negotiating table?
I mean, I think it's very difficult at this point. In the first place, no matter what you think about Trump and his knowledge of the history of the region and all the complications there, which is a legitimate conversation, the fact that he's even willing to go back to the table with what's essentially a totalitarian theocracy that hates America is something that's pretty exceptional. And it's very hard to negotiate a deal with a regime we know lies all the time about uranium enrichment. They lie all the time about whether inspectors are really allowed in there to take a look or not. And so I do think the fact that Trump's still willing to, hear them out is pretty remarkable, considering the fact that they are very hostile to America and our allies.
Especially with Iran saying now that any dialogue is meaningless. Let's come back to the U.S., guys. It has been a busy week of unrest in Los Angeles. Protesters have clashed with ICE agents, California's National Guard. Retired four-star Army General Wesley Clark, he weighed in on Trump sending the National Guard and Marines to L.A. Here's what he said.
It's unnecessary. It's provocative. The Marines aren't trained for it. The governor didn't ask for it. The mayor didn't ask for it. They are not trained to go into the streets of Los Angeles, certainly not with weapons, certainly not with loaded weapons. This is a total misuse.
He's pretty adamant about this. Lauren, your reaction to the general's comments?
I mean, look, I understand fundamentally that there are real questions of the role for the federal government in a city like LA. That's why there hasn't been this sort of deployment without permission from the governor since the 1960s. It's an extraordinary move. There are real questions about federalism. There are real parallels we can draw to January 6th and both parties' hypocrisy on this. But the bottom line is, you know, as a scholar of public opinion, once these protests turn violent, there's really no going back from there as far as how Americans see it. They see cops getting bricks thrown at them. They see cars set on fire. And they've really lost patience for this. And so, you know, Democrats, I think, by defending these protests in any way, shape, or form, have put themselves in an impossible position, because what Americans see on TV is a city being destroyed. They see cops that are under-resourced in the first place being attacked, and common sense tells them, well, yes, maybe it is appropriate for troops to go in to protect federal buildings and support the efforts of police.
Quarter-like, California Governor Gavin Newsom, President Trump, they've been at odds over this. Newsom now suing the Trump administration for activating California's National Guard. This marks a new breaking point between the two. Can you talk to me about whether there is a political risk to Newsom's decision to now take on Trump again?
Well, let me first just sort of start off by saying I think that characterization of what's happening on the ground in Los Angeles is false. I was just in Los Angeles.
There weren't cars on fire. There weren't people throwing bricks at cops.
Excuse me.
Lauren, if we can just let her finish. Yes.
I would tell you if you let me finish. I was just in Los Angeles earlier this week. I've lived in Los Angeles part-time, have deep roots there. Pepperdine University is located in Los Angeles. That there are people, in terms of people throwing bricks, in terms of riots going on. This is some of the talking points I've been hearing, you know, from folks who don't live there. That's not the case. You've seen Mayor Karen Bass come out and say, you know, that what's happening, these unruly elements of the protest are very limited. There's a strict curfew that's been put in place in parts of downtown Los Angeles that appears to be working. And so I just want to dispel this myth that somehow these unruly protests are widespread and across Los Angeles. That is not what I witnessed. That's not what's happening on the ground. That's not what the mayor of Los Angeles has said. And most of the protests, the majority of the protests, have been peaceful. And they've been in response to the fact that, to General Clark's point, neither the mayor of Los Angeles nor the governor of California invited this. This was created by the Trump administration, by the president. You know, we're seeing our military unleashed on our people, The military is not trained to do the job of the police. They are trained to do work that targets folks outside of the United States, not citizens of the United States. And so, you know, I think it's deeply distressing. And if I could just add one quick point, you know, the Los Angeles School District deployed the school police to set up safe zones around campuses and graduations amid these ICE raids. We have law enforcement that's now having to escort young people, students, to school because these ICE raids are so, you know, widespread and haphazard, and they're creating such an atmosphere of fear.
Yeah.
Do we really want our kids across the United States to be subject to that kind of haphazard trauma induced by its own government?
Lauren, I am running out of time, but I'll give you last word.
I just think it's pretty inconsistent. You know, when I watched the violent protests unfold on January 6th, I called them violent, even though there were also peaceful people there. And I think those people should be arrested. I think the same thing about what's happening in LA. As soon as there is some violence, then you've lost the plot if you're defending it. It's just a really hard line to parse, even though I'm sure we can find some common ground on the role of federal troops in U.S. cities.
Lauren Wright, quarter-like.
Nobody's defending violence. Nobody's defending violence. All peaceful protests.
Well, thank you both for coming on today and having this discussion. Appreciate you, Lauren and Quarter-like. Thank you again.
Thanks.